Cale uses his position as captain of the guard to boss Selena around, but struggles to keep his boundaries with her clear. Nehemia approaches Dorian and challenges him to stand up against his father, while also offering words of support for his future. When Dorian does stand up for the slaves of Calaculla, the king puts him in his place, and Dorian's anger as a result reveals a terrifying secret. Cale doubles down on his loyalty to the crown, despite news of Nehemia being targeted. After an unnerving encounter with Baba Yellowlegs, Dorian gives Cale a birthday present, but gets jealous when Selena claims the captain for the day of his birthday. The next day is the anniversary of Selena's parents' death, and she rides away from Rifthold to mourn the past.
Hey there, we're Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
We embrace and respect modern fantasy, romantasy, romance books written by women. And so it is in our nature to analyze these books as we would any other novel we might have discussed in school.
With our combined 13 years of literary academic training, we use our education to analyze and give voice to reasons you may love or hate today's popular books.
This is part 1 of this week's episode, where we're discussing chapters 17 through 21 of Sarah J. Maas's second Throne of Glass novel, Crown of Midnight. For a complete list of episodes and chapter breakdowns, be sure to check out our Instagram at the handle BookTok for BookTok.
Before we dive in, let's talk about S.P.I.L.T. Spoilers, perspective and interpretation, language, and themes.
Spoilers. While our discussion is about Throne of Glass, important context from the first 3 novels in the series will be discussed without spoiler warnings. That is specifically Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. This is not a read-along for anyone who hasn't read at least these 3 books, and you will be spoiled from here on out. So please, take this as your only spoiler warning. For all other spoilers beyond Heir of Fire and other SJM works, we will keep those to our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks section at the end of the episode.
Perspective and interpretation. What we discuss in this episode are strictly our personal interpretation of the text. We do not speak for Sarah J. Maas and in no way know her intentions for her books or characters. We also know our listeners have their own personal views and opinions, and we encourage you to share your thoughts with us because every perspective and interpretation is worth exploring.
Language. Even though we sort of keep swearing to a minimum, it happens. Explicit language occurs. Beware.
Beware. Themes. We also discuss some heavy subjects throughout the podcast that can include themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death. While we will do our best to give trigger warnings for the darker themes, we will discuss these topics when they are important to the text. Listener discretion is advised.
As always, we love keeping the conversation going because our listeners are so good at finding things we've overlooked or completely missed. You can share your interpretation of the text with us by posting on social media, tagging us in stories, sending us DMs, or submitting to the form on our website. We also post more exclusive content and host live streams for our Patreon supporters. You can find us at patreon.com/BookTalkForBookTok.
This week, we're asking ourselves the following question. We see Cale struggle with his honor and Selena struggle with her destiny. Can the two of them even have a successful relationship when they are driven and haunted by different things?
Themes we see in this section include still ignoring that call to action and power dynamics versus loving relationships. We're going to start in chapter 17, and we are at the party. This is another party. There's 2 parties in this book. I forgot that there were 2 parties. And until we were analyzing it, and I'm like, what is happening? Even though I had just read it. Anyway. So Selena's back on guard duty. She's not happy about it, and Cale is in boss mode. Quote, "A few hours in the winter night would cool her down." This is spoken like a true captain of the guard. He is her boss. I think the power dynamics are going to be very clear in these chapters, and I find that they are emphasized more so, especially during the chapters when their relationship is really developing. So I find that to be pretty interesting, and we're going to keep pointing that out. And I think that's kind of the part where people who don't like them like Cale, like they can't really figure out where, or They say they know where, but I feel like I can't figure out where they don't like him. But I can see how this might be maybe a little hard. I'll continue to say, though, that Kale is the one who understands Selena best at this point. Quote, not that he didn't trust her, but having Selena in one of those moods always set him on edge. This is, I mean, at first I'm like, hey, red flag, bro. Like, that's unfair of you. However, she does later on try to kill him when she's upset. So, he's also not wrong. And we're not seeing the best side of Kale. I think he's struggling with being this boss, this captain, but he's also struggling so much with his feelings for her and doesn't know where they land in the hierarchy of what's important to him.
Right. And he is most comfortable being the boss more than he is with trying to navigate how he feels and where that lands in all that he knows about himself and his life. So Kale knows, and I can guarantee Selena knows, that she is deliberately disobeying orders because, quote, she was currently leaning against the pillar, arms crossed, not hiding in the shadows as he told her to. He could see the hilt of one of the daggers she wore at her side. There is a power play going on. Not only is Kale asserting his power as captain of the guard right now, and someone she supposedly reports to, I question that, though. While Kale is asserting authority because he's uncomfortable, because he needs to be in control, it doesn't matter if it pisses her off. Like, he knew she was going to be in a mood. Selena counters this by saying, well, you don't want me visible? I will be visible. And I'm going to make sure everybody knows that I'm a threat because it's a big fuck you to Kale. He knows she doesn't want to be there. And again, does he really have authority over her if she is King's champion?
I mean, does she want to be visible? She kind of... Oh, the daggers that she wears on her side. That's fair. Yeah. Well, she bounces. But she bounces
does eventually
with her daggers, yeah. We see Selena, we're still in Kale's point of view. He finds her outside, and SJM is really setting up the reader on what to expect from this scene. Quote, he could see the tendrils of her breath curling in the night air, and the moonlight glinting off the hilt of one of the daggers she wore at her side. Her breath is curling, almost like you could say like hair is curling. The daggers are being like spotlit, almost like a dress. And this is a very romantic description of her for a very deadly assassin. And I want to flag a moment when this is going to be, we were saying this episode's kind of all over the place of what's happening. And so is Kale's thought process, because now I'm going to take a beat from there and go to, he's like, you know what I'm also going to think about is Dorian's little brother.
Why not?
I know, right? But I think it does make sense, and I'll go into why that. Quote, he hoped that between him and Dorian, they could check whatever corruption was already rotting away in Holland's heart once Dorian ascended the throne. So I'm flagging this because we can see that Kale views himself and Dorian as role models, as guides, almost as a moral compass, to be like, we are the ones who are going to guide him. I put very Timon and Pumbaa of them. And then Holland is their Simba. But I think what I like about this is that even his random thoughts about Dorian's brother, it still has to do with morals and honor and trying to be the person to deliver that honor to someone else.
So I know you're probably going to bring this up in a different context later. I want to pause for a moment because one of the things Jack and I are going to talk about a lot this episode is Kale, his relationship to the king, his honorability, his loyalty, and what that means in the future context of Nehemia and her death. So in this moment, I wonder if this is telling of Kale, right? Kale has noble intentions. He sees the rottenness in Holland. Holland is a rotten, spoiled little boy who just breathes and exudes evil. But just because he sees it in Holland, does that necessarily mean he also sees it in the king? And I think the answer is yes, but no. No, but yes. And we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. He doesn't want to see the king for what he is.
Yes, exactly.
Still in Kale's point of view, and we are going to get more about his mental state. again, this is kind of like a character discovery. Like we're getting a good basis of like reminder of, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is what Kale's about because he's about to experience emotions. So, quote, if Kale had been in Dorian's shoes, he would have winced. But the prince just grinned, took the lady's hand, and swept her around the dance floor. And that is basically when Dorian, like Kale just kind of looks at Dorian and he's like, wow, you are dancing with so many women. I could not do that. And it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because Dorian will lament that he's not like Kale or Selena, and he kind of wishes he could be strong like them. Even later, he's going to be fighting, like, dueling with one of his other uh, employees, one of his other
Guards.
men. Yeah, just, and he's going to be like, they're not even going hard. Like, he's like, Dorian really wishes that he was them versus right now, Kale is just kind of like, I am happy. I am not that.
Yeah.
We're going to have this moment a couple times in this episode where Kale is going to very much say, I am not royalty. I am not that. And that is another moment here where he looks at this and goes, I am not royalty. That is not my job.
Yeah, and I think it's said with relief, right?
Yeah.
That he doesn't have to parade around. And really, this is a meat market. And it's not that Dorian's looking for a bride. Everyone's looking for Dorian to pick them,
Mm-hmm.
right? He is the meat on display right now. And I think that's important, again, from a power dynamics point of view, before we go into what happens with Dorian this episode. We're seeing as Dorian is putting up with all the women who approach him. And I say that as if the women aren't doing anything wrong. They are not.
Yeah.
But this is Kale's point of view right now. Dorian is treated as his own form of currency. Everybody wants in on it because he is the heir to the throne. On one hand, it's like, oh, this is right. Is this a good political scheme? Does it buy him affection? Does it buy him loyalty from his subjects? Or is his real purpose for being bred this way, for being taught to be this charming prince,
Mm-hmm.
is he really just a puppet to keep folks distracted from the king? Because nobody's paying attention necessarily to the king.
Yeah.
Everything is about Dorian.
Yep. Very true.
So at this point, Kale notices that Selena has abandoned her post. So first of all, she was in sight when she wasn't supposed to be, and now she's gone completely. Quote, he stifled a snarl. Tomorrow, they were going to have a nice long chat about the rules and the consequences of abandoning posts while on guard duty. He is not worried about her. That his first assumption is the automatic, oh, she's abandoned, which in some ways she has, right? He knows her, but it's not a, is she okay? Oh, wait, she's on guard duty, whatever. Yeah. Again, going back to our earlier point, Selena is not obedient, and Kale is struggling with that lack of control over her. He even turns animalistic, a clear sign of baser instinct in him. He inherently needs control, and Selena will not give him that control. Nevertheless, Selena's not really one of his men. She's not necessarily beholden to him. And whether or not he can handle it, in my mind, is a moot point. It's not up to him.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is control and how much of it is doing or like abiding by the orders that are given to you shows your honor, shows your morals, shows what you're willing to do, like for the king. And every time Selena rebels like this or just doesn't listen, it's just another moment of she's not doing the honorable thing. However, he also knows she's very honorable herself. So it's kind of like a contradiction of what he believes to be true as well. So even moments like this, I think he struggles with her in general.
Right. Because his brand of loyalty and honorability is not the same as hers.
No, not at all. Kale finds Selena and, quote, Selena waltzed with herself. She even held the edge of her dark cloak in one hand as if it were the skirts of a ball gown. Her other hand poised on the arm of an invisible partner. He didn't know if he should laugh, yell, or just go back inside and pretend he'd never seen it. I will say the visual eventually when they start dancing and she's like holding her cloak and they're both wearing uniforms, like, I don't know, kind of looks goofy to me. But in my head,
I like the visual.
I didn't say I didn't like it. It's just a little goofy looking. But the symbolism here is dancing. And that's what I kind of want to look into because This is Selena leaning into her old self, leaning into the things that bring her joy. We know getting dressed up brings her joy. We know dancing brings her joy. She can't be part of this party. She can't be pretty and dolled up. She has to be a guard. So this is the one thing that she gets to lean into. And I also love how in book 1 you have Dorian, who found Selena playing piano by herself, and now we have Kale, who finds Selena dancing by herself. The time with Dorian and playing piano, she was just really sad, and this is just more of one that Kale gets to lean into with her. So yeah, I mean, it helps that she's embracing the quote unquote feminine arts that she so much enjoys. But why does I think dancing bring her extra joy? Because, she's likened it to killing before. She says that there's an art to killing, very much like a dance. She said that in book 1, not those exact words. Please do not try to quote me on that. But right now, dancing in this moment, she's able to find peace and do it without death.
Do you need to take a sip of water?
No.
Okay.
It's just a half choke.
Okay. Whether or not SJM intended it, Selena calls out Kale for putting her on guard duty. And this is kind of leaning into what Jack is saying about Selena accessing her old self and a lot of other things. Quote, "It was like putting a starving man in front of a feast and telling him not to eat, which, by the way, you actually did when you made me go to that state dinner." So this is Selena talking to Cal. There's so many ways to read into this quote. On one hand, it's Selena loves these things. She loves balls. She loves dancing. You're putting her in front of it again where she is not supposed to do anything about it. And it's just cruel to her, kind of going back to accessing the feminine. She wants to access the feminine. She's not given those opportunities. Another way to read it, Selena knows that Kale's asserting his authority over her, and he's done so a few times, and she's like, look, food is power. This is not okay. I'm not okay with it. Another point that I think is worth noting is that later in this episode, Selena and Kale have a moment where Kale admits that Selena deserves to eat as much food as she wants, because what's not said is she was starved in Endovier. She had food insecurity. But he forgets that context when he has on the mantle of the captain of the guard who is trying to be in control, trying to do honorable things. Right now, he's not thinking about the fact that for someone like Selena, who has experienced food deprivation and insecurity, using food metaphor is super, super telling. It is driving a point home about like, this is serious to me. And Kale doesn't really acknowledge that. I think there's also some hidden meaning here. While Selena is talking about music and dancing, I think also to some extent she's talking about her background, from where she came from being royal. She's starved for that life and being denied who she was by Aderlin. We've seen this before where she's like, well, if I might have had other opportunities, if not for what's happened to me.
Selena brings everything that Kale struggles with, not just like, is something honorable or not, but also emotions. Like he's like, I don't know these emotions. Him and Dorian don't talk late into the night discussing their feelings, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Quote, "Seeing her cry during Raina Goldsmith's song had stirred him so bone deep. It was like he'd found a part of him he hadn't even realized was missing." He feels that connection to her. It is bone deep. He is connecting with her vulnerability. Seeing her open up like that is what moves him. Like, just so it shakes his entire foundation, right? And I think not just emotionally, but again, like, he feels that she is a good person. That's something that he's struggled with in book 1 as well. And in order to make up for his attraction to her, because he was like, wow, she has a lot of emotions and I really like her, so this is what I'm going to do. Quote, "He'd made them run an extra mile this morning, not to punish her for it, but because he couldn't stop thinking about the way she looked at him. That is not the way to my heart. If a guy ever was just like, wow, you are so beautiful, let's get up and hike at 8 a.m. or at 6, even that, 6 a.m. I'd be like, no, I can't. No, I cannot, sir." And this is the hard part, is the fact that he is able to do that to her, right? He's able to boss her around and say, we're going to get up and train and I'm going to make you run laps. He had a moment of emotion and he took it out on her. That is a power position. He should not be doing that. Selena tells us, though, why she's out there dancing. Quote, she wants to, quote, forget everything for one waltz and pretend to be a normal girl. There are so many layers to this, right? Like, it's Selena wishing that she wasn't an assassin, wishing that she wasn't Selena, wishing that she wasn't Aelin. Like, there's just so many, wishing that she didn't have a destiny to figure out. And what is Kale? He is the definition of normal. He does not have magic, right? He is just a really good guy who has a very normal life. And that reminds me of in the Reputation documentary, Taylor was saying that she fell in love with Joe and that he was just a really normal guy who had a very normal, but she's not a normal girl.
Yeah,
she needs a Travis to match. Like, there's that other song. Is somebody going to match my freak? It's like, is someone going to match my non-normal?
Yeah, because normal to Selena and to Taylor mean very different things than what they mean to someone like Kale. Ultimately, Kale tells Selena to dance with him. And is it penance for putting her in a situation she's unhappy with? I don't think so. I don't think he's thinking that deeply. I mostly think he's thinking with his body.
Yeah. He's just like, she's pretty.
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah.
She cried last night. I still get tingles about it. That got me off this morning with her tears. Like, what a fucking sicko. Anyway.
We like Kale, by the way.
We do like Kale, but I don't know how I would feel if a guy was like, hey, so you cried last night? And it moved me.
I feel like when you were talking about this, I was like, all the times where he gets super horny do occur after that.
Yeah.
So that's all.
I mean, maybe he's just like really into emotions, you know? Like, maybe that's what he likes. Because
he's been so deprived.
Otherwise, he'd just be like, hey, baby, do you want to put on Me Before You again? Do you want to cry? Go all night long.
Ugh, no. No.
So sad. I haven't done my yearly watch of that yet.
I haven't watched it since it came out.
I keep trying. Every year I try to get you to watch it again.
Nope.
So we're in the same scene, but now we're in a different point of view. We're with Selena, and she is surprised by Kale's command to dance. Quote, because when he said it, it hadn't been the way Dorian had asked her to dance at the Yilmaz ball. That had merely been an invitation. So it's a lot of implying that Kale is once again commanding her to dance with him. I think it works for their dynamic, but it doesn't make it less problematic. You know, I think what's hard is that, and I believe I'm going to make this point later. Yeah, I'm not making it here. I'm going to make this point later, is that Selena wants to be guided right now. She wants to be that. She doesn't want to be the creator of her destiny, you know? Like, she doesn't want to go and fulfill shit. She wants to be a normal girl, and she doesn't want to think about anything. So here she has this normal boy who's just like, hey, you're going to dance with me. So of course she's going to be like, yeah, okay. She craves that authoritative figure because she feels lost and confused.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Rowan becomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The authority figure. So
he's really going to have to work to earn, like, to make me like him next season.
Yeah.
He hits her, and I don't like it. And I have issues with the violence that is threatened in this episode as well. So let's continue. I'm consistent, guys. So I want to make a counterpoint to our listeners, because last week we asked them, hey, prove us wrong about Kale. And there was a number of people who were just like, Kale is using Selena. And I thought that was an interesting thing, especially when we have this moment. Quote, when her eyes found his, she forgot about the cold and the moon and the glass palace looming above them, the secret library and the king's plans. Mort and Elena faded into nothing. She took his hand, and there was only the music and Kale. This is Selena using Kale to distract her from her destiny. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a great point. Like, the fact that the last thing she thinks of is Elena, the harbinger of her destiny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and when she says, like, the castle, she's talking about the king and her past and everything. There's just a lot for her to ignore right now. During this very honest dance, we get an even more honest moment. Quote, "The moonlight and the garden and the golden glow from the ballroom blurred together, now miles away. We'll never be a normal boy and girl, will we?" she managed to say. "No," he breathed, eyes blazing. "We won't." So you can tell that this is going to be a very vulnerable, emotional moment because it is moonlight. We know what she's about to confess is truth.
I love this idea because I also feel like SJM is clearly telling us right here and now they're never going to be together. Like there's so much foreshadowing in this idea that they will never be a normal boy and girl. They will never have that simple life that she craves, that Celaena craves.
And it ultimately would come down to, is Chaol capable of living a non-normal life? I like to think the way that their dance is described is important. So let's figure out if it is. Quote, "She knew his every move and he knew hers, as though they'd been dancing this waltz together all their lives, faster, never breaking her stare." This dance, I feel like, really represents them. Their time together is so short. We are 1 week, a week and a half into this month. Like this whole book happens in 1 month. They are together for like 1 week, and it's full of emotions. It's very dizzying. It's very overwhelming, very much like the stance.
Yeah, I love that you wanted to read into this dance because I also wanted to read into this dance. And so I'm going to read the sentence before the sentence you read because I think it's important for the conversation. Quote, "Each step was flawless, lethal, like that first time they'd sparred together so many months ago." So Jack has already brought up the quote from Throne of Glass, the first book, how Celaena equated sword fighting to dancing. Now, Chaol and Celaena are both beginning to realize and cementing the feelings that they have for one another. And it's encapsulated in this dance that has almost become this symbolic thing of the opposition between them that never disappears. Like in this description, they are both weapons, they are sparring against each other. And especially for Celaena, she can't take the fighting out of the art, just like she can't take the art out of the fighting. Like they go hand in hand. And can you really fall in love with someone if the emotions are tied up with the violence?
Absolutely. I just had another thought, and it doesn't exactly fit in here, but I just had another great comparison as to why Chaol is Joe Alwyn and why Celaena is Taylor. Honor, right? What's one of my, I think were you and I? Yep.
Peace.
We were just talking about it, right?
Yep.
And it's the lyrics, "I talk shit with my friends. It's like I'm wasting your honor." And you and I were just talking about this, where I was like, I don't want a guy who's like can't handle me talking shit if I'm with my friends. Be interested in the tea with me. And that is another moment where I was like, oh shit, that's, again, Chaol's just a really honorable guy, and Celaena can't be on that level because honor and destiny live in two different realms. After realizing that they're never going to be normal, Celaena thinks this, quote, "In that moment, after 10 long years, Celaena looked at Chaol and realized she was home." Now, this is huge for so many reasons, right? Because what happened 10 years ago? Her parents died. She lost her entire family. There was no home without her parents. There was, even with Sam, even with the Assassin's Keep, there was no home. Chaol is now her home. And my question ends up being, if Nehemia and Elena had just let her fucking leave it alone and let her come to these conclusions, because I think her embracing Chaol makes her slowly embrace what home looks like, and that is Terrasen. Celaena also comes to this conclusion that Chaol is home much faster than Chaol comes to the conclusion Celaena is it for me. Chaol eventually will come to that conclusion in a very kind of honestly too late moment. But it's at this moment that Celaena is like, yep, you are it for me. This is the man. You are my home. And this is love, people. I think everyone needs to accept it. They're in love, and this is the escape that Celaena needs.
I think the first time I read this, I was like, is this earned? What I think I was really asking myself was, is Selena's definition of home and what home is the same as ours? Because the last time she had a home, she was 8 years old. It was with her parents. So home now has to equate that same feeling of safety, protection, right? And is that the home that an 18-year-old needs or wants? I don't know. And I don't know that even if it is, it's not a home that she can stay in.
Yeah. I think also what, I don't know if SJM is aware of this or she just kind of like did it naturally, but when people have lost a parent or parental figures and anniversaries are nearby, it makes you really crave family. Like, we're going to go into the anniversary of her parents' death, but like today's Father's Day. I'm sad. I'm not having a great time today. And don't do that face. I'm going to start crying.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, like I'm sad today. But like, and I also know that I'm also wishing, like I like wishing, I'm being very vulnerable. There's a lot of things that I want in my life and I'm wishing those like 10 times more. When I was 18, all I wanted was to get married and have kids quickly because I just wanted that family again. And spoiler, I was like, the fuck you will. No, you're not. No, like, let's not do that. So that didn't happen. But I understand this, like this feeling of like when you're that young, you don't, and you're just trying to seize that feeling again, you're willing to do stupid shit.
Yeah. And it's, I think that Selena genuinely likes Cale, but I also think that she's influenced by her lack of family and her 10 years of loneliness.
10 years of loneliness, and then you're gonna suddenly like you have a glimmer of what it could mean to have a family again.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't ask how you're doing this morning.
Oh no, it's okay. That's fine. Okay. Some years it just kind of hits harder than most, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I understand. I forgot it was Father's Day. And then I thought multiple times, Emma, tell your dad Happy Father's Day. Did I remember to tell my father Happy Father's Day? I did not.
Oh, that's funny. I texted my stepdad and I want to ask my mom on the side, was I the first one?
Oh, poor dads.
Poor dads. That's why we need to embrace the scheduled text message feature on our iPhones.
We then switch over to Dorian's point of view. We are still at the ball, and we're in his perspective as he watches Selena and Cale dance, during which he describes them as, quote, no more than two wraiths spinning through the wind. Now, this is the third time Selena has been compared to a wraith in this book, at least the third. Now, I think it could mean multiple things. It could mean Selena's friendship with him is dead. Maybe his friendship with Cale is dead, or at least the versions of them from Throne of Glass, the first novel. I also feel like, I'm sorry, guys, I just feel like SJM's laying on really thick this foreshadowing of the tragic end of the relationship between Selena and Cale.
There's this scene, and then there's a scene with Nehemia and Dorian, and I say with Nehemia and Dorian, it feels like a scene that she wrote or thought of early on. And this scene feels like a scene that she wrote or conceptualized later on in her planning. If that makes sense. I think reading this scene is very much she knows they're not going to end up together.
Right.
Versus a lot of other times I'm just like, you thought they were endgame, didn't you? But this is the first time that I'm definitely picking up the clues of no, tragic end.
Yeah, this feels like something she added in the edits after she wrote the first draft of Heir of Fire. Like, she's like, oh, shit.
Or she had it already and was like, let's make it sad. What if I make it romantic with underlining sad?
Yeah, that too.
Dorian watches them from afar like a creeper. So now we're in Dorian's point of view, and he's just like watching them being, I'm over them. I'm over Selena. I'm totally normal. I'm just watching them until Nehemia comes over and talks to him. So now we're in the part where I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. And I just want to take a beat to describe how Nehemia looks and how she's dressed. Quote, she was resplendent in a cobalt gown with gold thread accents, her hair coiled and braided in a coronet atop her head. Her delicate golden earrings glittered in the light of the chandelier, drawing his eyes to her elegant neck. The ball is described as having blue decoration, so I can see like it's very much Nehemia trying to blend in. This is also the second time that we're getting a lot of, or that I'm remembering, of Nehemia being in gold. Remember, she had gold eyeshadow before, and now we're seeing her very much in gold. I think that we know Terrace, one, I'm sure she looks great in gold. Two, Terrason's colors are green and gold. So I kind of like to see this moment as a mixture between the two courts that she's trying to weave between, like the Adderley court and the Terrason court. So
even though Adderley is red,
but
it's all blue right
but
now.
it's blue of the decoration. So
yeah.
Anyway, the next part is where I'm specifically thinking that SJM wrote the scene or thought about it early on. Quote, and this is Nehemia talking to him. Quote, you and I, we will always stand apart. We will always have, she searched for the word, responsibilities. We will always have burdens that no one else can ever understand. That they, she inclined her head towards Kale and Selena, will never understand. And if they did, then they would not want them. So at this point, Nehemia's only job is to deliver cool lines. Like that's it. Her job is to only deliver these lines that pop up in SJM's head that she's like, ooh, this sounds nice. Let's have someone say this. Because this doesn't make any sense as to why Nehemia would be doing this. Why is Nehemia being the one who's like, oh, they'll never understand us because we're royalty and they don't get it. But also, Selena, please step up into your royalness. And I know someone might be like, well, she doesn't want to tell Dorian that Selena is royal. So therefore, she has to keep up the ruse, but she doesn't have to go out saying this specifically. You know what I mean? Like you can just easily not say anything and just be like, hey, man, let my friend be with the guy that she wants to fuck. All right. Like, let's let it go. But it's so disingenuous of who Nehemia is on what she's been saying and what she's been trying to do.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you. I really struggled with this scene and Nehemia's role in it because it does feel like she's flat out lying. So I tried to be like, okay, what if she's not? What if SJM was intentional with this scene and it wasn't just about delivering a cool line that is inconsistent with her character and what she knows? So I went back to Jac's point about Nehemia being in the same colors as the decorations and trying to blend in. What if Nehemia is trying to get into Dorian's good graces? You know, she alludes later to his coming power and that he can rely on her when he comes into that power. I wonder to some extent if by comforting him, she's trying to strengthen their connection for her own gain. There's multiple reasons for that. One of them, Selena isn't falling in line with what Nehemia is trying to get her to do.
Yeah.
She isn't biting on the Terracin fishing thread, worm, whatever. Dorian might be the backup plan. She could be trying to steer him the way Kale thinks about steering Holland.
Like the backup plan where she kills him instead of herself.
Backup plan to Selena.
Yeah. But I like what you're doing with it. I like it. I agree.
Because what does she do next? She then tries to push Dorian the same way that she pushes Selena. Quote, would you stop it then? Speak to your father at the council meeting, convince the others to say no? No one except for Selena dared to speak to him like that, but her boldness had nothing to do with his response, as Dorian said, I can't. Nehemia is like an open book. She's not as sneaky as she thinks she is because she's got the same message to everybody. And I do think that she's trying to keep all avenues to success open. She probably has seen Dorian be a decent person is like, okay, well, maybe I can give him a chance too. Dorian, on the other hand, thinks to himself, quote, demanding the king shut down Caliculla would force him to choose sides and make a choice that could destroy everything he had. I just want to take a moment to remind our listeners that Dorian and Selena are on similar journeys, and we're going to see it a couple times in this episode. They are both struggling to answer the call to action because the call to action requires them to give up what they have. I firmly believe that Nehemia's death will change them both and will set both on the paths, their respective paths to their fates.
Yeah, it was always to change Selena's path. Like, that was always the goal. But Dorian is a nice bonus of it's a 2-for-1 deal.
It is a
for
2
her
for 1
sacrifice.
and to some extent, you would never have Selena without Dorian because of the Elena and Gavin history, regardless of whether or not they end up together.
Yeah.
There's something poetic about both of their descendants being involved in saving the world.
I mean, they're very distant cousins.
Very, very distant cousins.
Yeah. As Dorian and Nehemia are chatting, Nehemia points out his privilege bullshit, and she gets mad. And like Amy was saying, that Nehemia is not as sneaky as she thinks he is. And we have this moment with Dorian, quote, perhaps he'd gotten used to her accent. He could have sworn she was speaking more clearly. Very bad spying here. And I think it's meant to be a sign of how Nehemia is becoming more reckless. You know, she's not as tight-lipped as before. She's not as smooth, honestly, as she thought she was. And this is her just being like, oh, fine, I guess the next step is going to have to be her killing herself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's other steps, babe. There are so many other steps.
I'm glad you brought up this point because Nehemia does make a lot of missteps before she ultimately dies. And this is among the first of several that we're going to see in this episode. And again, it's like what I say at work. I don't often say this. My mother says it, though, when I tell her stories about me working. She's like, something to the effect of, your emergency is not my responsibility. Like, Nehemia, if just because you think this is an emergency does not mean I have to go at your pace.
Yeah.
Right? I can do it. Selena can do it whenever she gets to it.
There are just so many other options before you get there. Like, before you get to faking your own murder. Like, there's just other things.
Yeah. Except Nehemia doesn't fake hers.
I mean, she actually is murdered, but she set it up.
Yeah.
It's still faking your murder. Because is it murder if you're a willing participant?
You're framing somebody else.
Yeah. So it's not murder. It's framing.
I mean, but she still gets murdered.
None of this is good. None of it is a good, like, this is why a lot of people have issues with SJM, and as you should. Overall, I continue to question Nehemia's purpose in this book, because she then hints to Dorian that she knows about his magic, and she's like, come to me when you are ready to learn about it. How does she know? How does she know? It's like the same way. How did she know about Selena's powers? How does she know about Selena's past, who she really is? How is she this all-knowing character and yet misses so many things? And I think that that's some of the frustration, is how we know nothing about Nehemia except of how much she knows.
At some point, I just have to like suspend my disbelief and just assume Elena told her, or there's a prophecy somewhere that informs some of what she knows, but whatever. Like, I agree. I don't like it. I think more than anything, what it shows is how, again, Nehemia is merely a plot device. SJM needed to foreshadow Dorian's power before we actually see it, needed to do all sorts of things, and just said, Nehemia's available, and just used her.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people might be like, okay, you pointed it out, leave it alone. No, It will continue to.
It keeps happening.
It keeps going. But also, a lot of writers like to listen to this podcast and they learn from it. And this is one of those things where if you're ever going to have a beta reader or you're going to read through your own work, you need to ask yourself this. Like, who is Nehemia? What is her source of knowledge, her source of power, her motivation? Because wanting to save her people isn't enough for everything that's happening right now.
Right. And doesn't justify how much she knows.
Yeah.
And take a sip.
Everyone, let's have a drink, even the listener.
We finally are now in chapter 18.
19 and 18 are the longest ones of notes.
I feel like 17 and 18 were the longest.
Sorry, 17 and 18, the first two.
And we're back in Celaena's point of view. It is the following day, and she is getting ready to threaten Archer at his townhouse. She's there waiting for Archer to show up, and she's being served by the butler. Quote, she hadn't touched the tea the butler had laid out for her on the low-lying marble table, though she'd certainly indulged in 2 cream puffs and 1 chocolate torte while waiting for Archer to return. Now, there are times when Celaena drinks tea and other times when she doesn't. And in my notes, I was like, why the fuck isn't she drinking the tea? And so I am going to choose to believe here it's symbolic because tea is often a symbol of civility, of culture. It's very, in my mind, British. I know it's not just Britain, guys. I know. But from my Western point of view, it makes me think of Pride and Prejudice and civility. And Celaena's not here to be cultured. She's not here to be civil. She's here to be an assassin. Now, of course, she's going to eat the food because A, she has a sweet tooth, and B, food is power.
While Celaena is waiting, she just kind of thinks back to Cale and the night before in their dance. Quote, after the waltz had finished, he'd merely told her if she abandoned her post again, he'd break a hole through the ice in the trout pond and toss her in. Now, I know these moments are kind of meant to be like, ha, 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 this is hilarious. Look at these 2 cute, funny little people. And, she constantly threatens him. He threatens her. And it's meant to be funny. However, not this podcast. The power dynamics are messy. And I personally don't like threats of violence. Even in my friendship life, I do not threaten violence. Although you did threaten to hit me today.
Excuse you. You regularly throw things at me.
Like I said, I never threaten.
You act. Thank you for proving my future point on something.
And also, in Amy's defense, she only threatened to hurt me because I was like, should I hold your weight down while you're working out?
And make it harder?
Yeah.
You're threatening violence towards me. After threatening Celaena, Cale, quote, stalked back inside and left her to suffer in the cold. Now, I do find his threats of violence and his putting on the mantle of the captain of the guard after sharing a dance with her odd. It feels like he's giving her the cold shoulder. It feels like he's kind of taking out indecision on her, which goes back to Jack's point from earlier about like, we're going to run another lap just because.
Cale would thrive in today's day and age. And he would not be in a committed relationship at all. And he would just be busy being like, I just don't want to hurt you, but let's dance romantically outside and I'm going to ditch you out here. Dick. However, as annoyed as I am with Cale being violent, Celaena is also violent. I'm going to read this quote. Now, remember, she is with Archer and they're about to have their little, afternoon threatening tea. Quote, if your butler doesn't stop listening at the keyhole, I'm going to cut off his ears and shove them down his throat. Cale was threatening violence, so she's threatening violence. This is a very naturally violent relationship here. And I'm still not a fan of it. I think SJM, though, makes Celaena extra violent so that the threats of unforgivable actions, cough, cough, Rowan. Does that happen in book 3 is when it happens? He punches her in the face.
I'm pretty sure he warns her. Me, a Rowan apologist over here. Your face. Priceless.
Excuse me. No, never. I don't like it. Now, in hindsight of this meeting, it's amazing how much Archer is playing with Selena, though. They're doing their own dance, and Selena isn't even aware of it. He asks her about Dorian and Kale, and if she's told them things. And she's like, no, I obviously haven't told them anything. And we know why why he's trying to like suss out how much they know so that he can activate his plans. And Archer says, quote, or is it because you don't actually trust either of them? He's trying to test her limits with Kale to see, like, is he someone that would tell her the threat of Nehemia? You know, like there are, he's sniffing around.
So I want to expand on what you're saying, and I'm going to do that by first going back to the start of the scene when Archer first arrives. Before Selena starts talking to him, she commands him the way Kale commanded her the night before. Sit, she told him, not particularly caring that this was his house. Archer obeyed, taking a seat in the armchair across from the couch. Now, on one hand, you know, Kale's bad attitude and taking out on Selena is being mirrored here with Selena and Kale, you know, saying shit rolls downhill. It's kind of what's happening in my brain. And I feel like Kale, Selena can't really make up her mind about Archer and what to do with him because she's on a time crunch and he is not doing what she needs him to do. On the other hand, though, at the same time, Archer is obedient. He doesn't have to listen to Selena. He can fight back, but all he does is sit down like a good little boy, which is a good way to fool her into like trusting him, believing him, because he is flat out lying to her.
Yeah. Also, I brought chocolate covered strawberries, or I bought strawberries and chocolate dip for tomorrow. And Selena Gomez's new Oreo crossover, which is supposed to be really good.
Oh, I had a reason to come to your place tonight. I was going to drop off margarita mix.
And cake.
Jesus, maybe we should eat the chocolate strawberries tonight.
I don't know. The great part is that all of this will stay in the episode and no one will know.
Nobody
listens to our podcast.
Do they even really love us?
No, they don't. The only person who ever that is like in our life who listened, one, Nicole listened to the first season, like a champ.
Yeah.
Two,
Anna did too.
Huh?
My sister-in-law also listened to the first season.
My ex-boyfriend was a very vigilant listener of this first several seasons.
Yeah.
While he was an ex.
Your cousin and your cousin-in-law.
Holy shit, I forgot about my family. Sorry, guys. Shout out Katie.
And Tony.
Shout out Joan. Love you guys. So sorry. Let's continue. Love them. All right, that's who loves us.
So when Archer calls Selena out for not trusting Dorian and Kale, it does strike a nerve. Quote, she shot to her feet. Don't presume to know anything about me, Archer. Now, I think Archer misinterprets that as her being protective, but I actually think that it's ultimately true. Selena doesn't trust these two with her truest self. So how can she really ever trust them? Just putting rhetorical question, just putting it out there.
No worry. I don't want to answer. That's fine. Let's let it remain. Let the listener think.
Yes.
Katie, Tony. Sorry, guys. Now we are with Dorian, and he's in a meeting with Daddy, and they are talking about slaves. That sucks. And Dorian thinks, quote, he should have fought to get Nehemia into this council. And it's just suddenly you can tell, like, he's like achieved consciousness, and he's like, do I have white privilege? Yeah, you do. So there's recognition that maybe he could do more, and it's not much, but it's a start. And at least like we're seeing so much growth from book one, where he's just like, I'm bored. I don't want to be in these meetings. And now he's like, wait a minute. Should I have done something?
Yeah. Which, sad, but it is a lot of growth for him.
Yeah.
Now, there is a breadcrumb at this council meeting. Quote, the black ring on the king's hand glinted in the dim light from the beastly fireplace, that mouth-shaped hearth that seemed poised to devour the room. Now, food is power. It's threatening to devour. There's a lot of evil going on, and we as the readers know this because we've read Throne of Glass. We remember Cain. We remember that the ring means evil and possession. It's also a visual cue that's important when Dorian sees that Parrington and Roland are wearing the same rings. It's a confirmation for the reader that they're all connected and that they're all influenced somehow if you didn't get that from the Raina Goldsmith execution scene. Just a reminder now. However, Dorian doesn't know this. Instead, he just feels jealous because why does cousin Roland get a ring and I don't, Daddy?
Like, they all have a ring and I really want a ring.
I want to be part of the Black Ring Club.
Daddy, let me in. Play catch with me.
Now, jokes aside, I actually do think that this sets Dorian off because he's tried to obey his father. He's tried to please his father. His father he's never ever done enough to please his father.
This is such a weird Father's Day episode.
It really is. And I do think that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back for Dorian. It is ultimately why he speaks up and gets like for the slaves and yells at his dad.
He yells at his dad. Done talking. That's it.
Even though I have another note next.
Yeah.
So Dorian speaks up against the plans for Calacalla's expansion and having more slaves. Quote, a growl from down the table. His father. Watch your tongue, prince. Not a father to his son, but a king to his heir. You know what this reminds me of? Kale and Selena from the ball the night before because he snarled when she wasn't where she was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Power dynamics. And I don't think the parallel is accidental. When there are power dynamics like this, there isn't a lot of room for love. We see that with Dorian and his dad. Unfortunately, it also happens with Kale and Selena for different reasons, but similar reasons too. Dorian calls out his father for treating humans like animals. Quote, you keep tightening the leash and it's going to snap. What I like about this quote is it does remind us that Dorian fundamentally understands that what's going on is wrong and that there are consequences to these bad actions. There is something noble within him, even if he's never been good about acting on it. And I think it has to be there for us as readers to keep rooting for him.
Mm-hmm. So when Dorian stands up to leave because he's been chewed out by his dad and he's like, I'm out, I can't handle this. And we get this quote, his dad will growl again. And, A, pick another word, B, showing how animalistic and non-human he is. So choose your own adventure of which one you guys want it to be, guys. Quote, his father growled, but Dorian was already walking across the red marble floor past that horrible fireplace, out the doors, and into the bright halls of the glass castle. It's very visual moment of seeing Dorian walk away from everything that symbolizes his father, right? Those red marble floors, the fireplace, which is described as like almost like a demon's mouth. So there's an into the brightness of the glass castle. Very symbolic storming out. If you're going to storm out, do it in the most symbolic way you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dorian is pissed, and because of that, he somehow accesses his magic and destroys a stone wall with his fist. Quote, it wasn't possible because magic. Dorian dropped to his knees and was violently sick. Now, if you've been listening since season 1, ACOTAR, you know that being sick, vomiting, is often a sign of humanity, of weakness, and in this case, fear. Dorian may have magic ability but he is not powerful right now. In fact, the presence of magic weakens him because of the danger that it puts him in.
Yep. Love it. Love it. So now we're back with Selena, and she's just chilling with Kale, hanging out. He's teasing her. She's just like in his room. And he says, quote, "Don't you ever stay in your own rooms anymore?" No, not if she could help it. Not with Elena and Mort and all the nonsense just a secret door away. Selena is using Kale to hide from her responsibilities. Kale is like, it's just funny. I don't want to, he's not using her the way that she's using him, but there's still romance. But he might be using her in his own way, but not in that escape way.
Yeah, not to the extent that Selena is, honestly.
Yeah.
Selena thinks to herself, quote, "Ordinarily, she might have sought sanctuary in the library, but not now. Not when the library held so many secrets, it made her head spin to think about them." So this is interesting because what this is telling us is that secrets rob Selena of her comforts. The library was once a comfort. It is now no longer a comfort because it holds secrets. So Selena herself, who is just one big secret, can she ever truly be comfortable if she is full of secrets? And to me, this is a reminder, just like the Archer moment was when he was like, do you even trust Kale and Dorian? No, because she has secrets. If home equals safety and comfort, and she feels at home with Kale because he feels like safety and comfort, will then her secrets ultimately destroy the relationship? Again, rhetorical.
But also true. Selena and Kale kind of have those like cutesy moments. She's just like, "I'm going to kick you. No, don't kick me. Oh my God, you're kicking me." Quote, "He chuckled as she put her foot against his face and pushed. He grabbed her foot and wouldn't let it go when she tried to yank her leg back." All right, I think we need to accept this truth. And that truth is that SJM, or at least the Maas verse, has a lot of foot shit going on. A lot of foot stuff happening.
It's a lot of foot stuff.
There's a lot of in his face. We already know it's canon. I don't like feet. I can't handle feet. I don't like it. So, like, is there a sock? I can't remember. I mean, none of it's good. None of it is good.
Doesn't matter if there's a sock. It's still gross.
I hate that so much. So I just don't want to assume things about SJM, but they've been assumed.
They have. I assume them as well.
Yeah.
So this is the point in the conversation where Selena and Kale talk about food. Kale's teasing Selena for how much she eats and how much food she wants. And Selena says, quote, "Haven't I earned the right to eat as much as I want whenever I want?" She wrenched her foot out of his grasp as the smile faded from his face. "Yes," he said quietly, "you have." After a few moments of silence, he stood up and walked to the door. She sat up on her elbows. "Where are you going?" "To get you chocolate cake." Now, this is a really sweet moment because what's not said here is the fact that Kale recognizes Selena's past food insecurity. And so therefore, if she wants to eat, she should be allowed to eat, which is actually not what you're supposed to do with people who have had food insecurity, but that's beside the point. So what does this say about food as power in the context of what is going on versus secrets versus what she's avoiding? We could interpret it as Selena feels that she's earned the right to her freedom. She's earned the right to choose to have power over her own destiny. That's what food, to me, is symbolic of in this moment. If we go back to the earlier conversation I had about Kale from chapter 17, Kale is only cognizant of Selena's food insecurity when he is not in a position of power. He was physically below her in this scene. She was on the couch, and he doesn't have to be captain of the guard in front of anyone. He's only truly cognizant of her when he has no role to play. And that is problematic.
We've said before that maybe Nehemia and Elena should have let Selena come to her own conclusions. I said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again now. I'm going to read this quote, and this is Selena reflecting on what Nehemia had said. You can't read the italics, so I'm going to say it. in italics. Quote, you know. Amy just tilted her head. You know, the courts weren't always like this, Nehemia had said. There was a time when people valued honor and loyalty, when serving a ruler wasn't about obedience and fear. Do you think another court like that could ever rise again? Selena hadn't given Nehemia an answer. She hadn't wanted to talk about it. But looking at Cale now, at the man he was and the man he was still becoming, yes, she thought, yes, Nehemia, it could rise again, if we could find more men like him. Cale's honor is what attracts her to him. Now, we talk a lot about, is Cale almost too honorable to a fault? Yes. But his honor is very similar to that of Terrason. And he inspires her to do more, because she even thinks at one point, quote, and maybe it had taken her this long to realize it, but this man, she wanted that life with him. He is home, and home is now Terrason. Like, this isn't just kind of maybe some mythical maybe area. Like, there's starting to be a connection of like, well, maybe Terrason can be rebuilt. Maybe I can have a home again. These things are beginning to happen there. And she's committed to Cale, which means you can see her becoming committed to her own country again.
Mm-hmm. Because if she has people like Cale around her, maybe she can fulfill her destiny. At this point, Selena goes back to her room after touching Cale's face, by the way, and sees Dorian, who's waiting for Nehemia, and all of that is in the breadcrumbs.
So we are now in chapter 19, and it's now the next day, and we're with Cale, and he's with the king. But his brain wanders to Selena. Quote, he tried not to think about last night, how the brief touch of Selena's fingers through his hair and on his face had sent a pang of desire through him so strong he wanted to grab her and pin her on the couch. It had taken all of his self-control to keep his breathing steady, to pretend that he was asleep. This is very reverse gender role of Sleeping Beauty here. Normally you'll get like the woman who's asleep and men touch them unconsentingly. But now you have a woman touching him. So, women. But
and it's fine because he was into it.
He was into it and awake. Although I will say, as much as I'm
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, as much as I'm like, saying like we, consent and asleep and, women there, it's like, it's sad. It's a joke. However, I will also say, like, if a man could just tuck my hair behind my ear while I'm sleeping, that's all I ask.
Consent given.
Right now.
For eternity.
Like someone breaks into my room and they're like, you gave your consent on the podcast.
Why was he pretending to be asleep in the first place?
Cale?
Yeah.
I think he was like awake, like he was asleep and then felt her kind of like moving around and then was awake, but didn't want to ruin anything. That's my mind. Selena has completely enchanted him. And I think that that's super important because this scene here with Cale and the king, this is the moment where his quote unquote downfall is because of how much he's struggling with staying with this line with Selena and how that impacts his decision on keeping a secret from Nehemia. Yeah? Are you burping? Or are you having a moment?
You have bewitched me, body and soul.
But also not burping. Quote, crossing it would call into question his loyalty to the king before him, not to mention the way it would impact his friendship with Dorian. And again, like he is just so committed to the crown, so much so that Dorian is the crown. Like that's his best friend, but that's still the crown. He is devoted to them.
So in this way, we could argue that Cale is the opposite of Dorian, but I also want to say he's the same because while Cale is selfless to a fault because of his honor and his loyalty, where Dorian is more selfish and self-serving, there's also this aspect, which we'll get more into later, that Cale doesn't want to disrupt the status quo. he there's something in him that believes he has to stay true to his character, and this is what it means to stay true to his character, this utter loyalty to a leader and his homeland that maybe deep down he knows isn't great, but he's not going to think about it. And we've known this about Chaol since day one. Celaena, as we talked about in episode 1, has known this about Chaol since day one. And we can tell that she forgets because of this. Celaena refused to be with Dorian because he is the king's son. She doesn't stop being with Chaol, even though he is the king's captain of the guard and has shown that he is of the utmost honorability, loyalty to the crown. To me, it's a double standard. I honestly think Dorian would have been like, yeah, fuck my dad, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure he was thinking that by the end of the first book. And Celaena forgets that Chaol is so much more noble.
Yeah.
And is much more likely to stick to his guns.
So now we get into the meat and potatoes of Chaol's issues. Quote, Dorian and the king were where his loyalty lay. Without his loyalty, he was no one. Without it, he'd given up his family, his title, for nothing. Chaol follows the king blindly because Chaol follows loyalty blindly, which makes sense because he wasn't loyal to his father, he wasn't loyal to his home and his birthright, so he needs to compensate for that lack of loyalty by going against his own everything. Again, father, birthright, everything. If he's not loyal to the king, then he is no one because he is his own honor. So it really comes into a sense of identity. Like, even he knows that he is nothing if not honorable. So what happens when that's gone?
Exactly. I mean, and this is key to understanding Chaol and everything that happens leading up to Nehemiah's death. Chaol's given up everything he is entitled to because he's so loyal to Dorian. He chose the noble thing instead of choosing to be nobility. Now, if he questions or compromises his loyalty, he's given up everything about his heritage for no reason. Now, this is going to be juxtaposed later by Celaena's will. We'll get into that eventually. But I will say that is a breaking point for Chaol, again, for a future episode. And I put this later, but I'm going to say it now. Like Jack, Chaol has to double down.
Yeah. You know, yeah.
Which
I'm going to double down on that statement. I'm doubling down on your statement. Yeah.
You did it earlier, too, with the violence and
I don't want to say that I don't know. I've met anyone who's doubled down as hard as I do sometimes.
I've never met anyone who doubles down as hard as you do.
Yeah.
But actually, one of our listeners in the question we posted on Instagram, I was skimming. It's Sierra. Sierra said this is like the lost sunk cost fallacy, which is such a great point, which is, well, you've committed so much already. Like, then you just have to like keep up with it. Otherwise, you've lost all the investment into it, right? It's the same idea here. He's put so much faith in this loyalty to Dorian, so much that he's given up with his family. He doesn't hear from his mom. Like, he's lost the only loving parental figure in his life. He's lost his heritage. He's lost his brother. Yeah, it's a sunk cost fallacy for Chaol.
We're going to get now into the king's assignment, and that is for Chaol to keep an eye on Nehemia, because the king tells him, quote, it seems she's made some enemies outside of this palace as well. Ironically, this is all true.
I don't think the king knows that. Does he?
But didn't he? Because he wouldn't have told Chaol to keep an eye on her just for...
I can't remember, to be honest.
No, like, I think he genuinely was surprised of like, oh, someone's out. Like, because the entire time I was like, oh, the king had to be a part of it. And then it truly was nothing to do with him. And the irony is that the threat is true. Because when I said the irony is like, the first time I read this, I was like, king, you're just trying to do something to her. And it's like, no, actually, he's telling the truth. But let's get into Cale's logic, shall we? Quote, while he knew that Selena would be furious that he didn't tell her he was the captain of the guard, he had fought and sacrificed nearly as much as Selena had to get to this position. He'd let her get too close by asking her to dance. He'd let himself get too close.
Remind me, I have a point to make after you make your point.
He did not sacrifice as much as Selena.
Seriously? That was exactly what I was going to say.
It was, I mean, did he spend a year in Dovier? Was he training to be an assassin from the age of 8? Like, you little shit. This screams white privilege.
Yeah.
The definition of it.
And male privilege.
Male privilege. I kind of group white privilege with male privilege. But yeah, it's just the level of privilege of like, wait, I've had it hard too. No one said you didn't have it hard, but to go and try to say that other people have not had it harder than you is stupid.
Yep.
And not the point. Anyway, he is a problem. But let's dissect this thought, shall we? This is who Cale is. He feels guilty about his relationship with Selena and how it's distracting him from the king. Because again, any distraction from his own loyalty and his own honor is a distraction to his core of who he is. And the fact that he's even questioning his loyalty to the king right now is showing that his loyalty in general is being questioned. So he's, he is one brain cell away from having a full spiral panic attack. Yeah. Because wanting to be with a woman shouldn't mean that you're not also loyal to the king. So he sees that there's something wrong here, right? Like, it's not, if there was any other woman in the castle, he would not have an issue. It's the fact that this is Selena. And again, if it's any other employee, it wouldn't be an issue. It's the fact that he knows that Selena was hurt by the king. Even if he doesn't know her whole Aelin past, he knows that she was enslaved because of the king. Complicated feelings and emotions here.
Yes, completely agree with you. Now, I will say, and I have to give kudos to Cale, because when the king first says there are unknown threats to Nehemia, Cale's first reaction is to actually tell Nehemia and to protect her. Quote, I'll have extra guards watch her rooms and patrol her wing of the castle. I'll alert her immediately of there's no need to alert her or anyone. The king gave him a pointed look. She might try to use the fact that someone wants her dead as a bargaining chip, might try to make herself into a martyr of sorts. He didn't think Nehemia would do that, but Cale kept his mouth shut. So he, again, has good instincts. He wants to protect Nehemia. He wants to tell Nehemia. The only reason he doesn't tell her, her guards, or Selena is strictly because the king told him not to. And that's when Cale's like, I need to double down and be a good guard. Ultimately, it's not Cale's decision to not tell Selena, but he decides to be a good soldier and not question authority. At this point, we transition to Dorian's point of view, and he's roaming the festival that is being set up for Holland in celebration of Holland's return, I guess. Roland catches up to Dorian and asks to talk to him and apologize for the Caliculla proposal that set Dorian off. At one point, Roland says, we're family, Dorian. And Dorian thinks, quote, family. Dorian had never really considered himself to be in an actual family, and certainly not now. If anyone found out about what had happened in that hallway yesterday, about the magic he might have, his father would kill him. He had a second son, after all. Families weren't exactly supposed to think like that, were they? So this is super tragic, and this was the point in where I was like, oh, Dorian, this is why you're selfish. No one thinks about him.
Yeah.
He is the only one who really thinks about himself. I mean, that's not true in Cale's sense, but like Dorian feels like he's the only one really looking out for his own best interest.
Dorian would have lost it with Lilo and Stitch. He would have been like, family means no one gets left behind?
What?
What? Who said that? What rules are these?
During his conversation with Roland, Dorian thinks, quote, and if his father and the other councilmen thought that they could use Roland to win support for their dark dealings, well, then it was time for Dorian to play the game too. He could turn his father's pawn against him. Now, Dorian is stepping up. He had his moment of awareness. He's trying to do the right thing rather than the selfish thing. And though the idea of magic scares him, there's part of me that also thinks that does Nehemiah's conversation with him, does the fact that he now have magic, maybe help him believe, wow, I'm more capable of things than I ever thought I could be. And I don't know that for sure, because at the same time, he sees the cages in the carnival and he thinks, quote, perhaps he belonged in one of those cages too. So he's not safe. He thinks of himself as an animal. But despite all that, he's trying, and he gets points for trying in my book.
Absolutely. Kale and Selena also appear at the carnival, and we're still in Dorian's point of view, and Selena is just admiring all of the different tents that are being set up. And we see that, quote, Kale, as he stalked to Selena and yanked her arm away from the black curtain. You'll lose your hand like that, the captain warned her, as she glared at him. One, it reminded me of one of the times I went to Amsterdam, and I was with my friend Sam, and she had to physically, we were in the red light district, and I was just trying to have a nice conversation with one of the women working there, and she was like, stop it. And I'm like, we're having a good talk. I said her outfit was cute. So that just reminded me of that moment. However, this dynamic here is very fatherly, and it's very him being in charge of her. And this is not a good sign of them being a couple if this is the start. They are days away from boning.
It's true. It is very true. Now, at this point, the group meets Baba Yellowlegs. And Dorian thinks, quote, but this was all just a sham. That woman had probably put on a fake set of iron teeth and sheer yellow stockings and called herself Baba Yellowlegs to make carnival patrons hand over good coin. So this is another moment where Dorian is being like Selena. He is denying magic when it's obvious to him that magic exists. He's developed his own magic. Whether or not he believes Baba Yellowlegs is a real figure, it's like when Selena denied Mort, right? It's right in front of her, but she still denies it. It is a survival tactic. It's a coping mechanism, and it's a similarity that Selena and Dorian have. And I think that's important that we see the similarities between them, because they do reconnect in this novel. They do kind of form their friendship again, and it has to be believable.
Yep.
We then move into Selena's point of view, and there's just a lot of breadcrumbs for what happens in Assassin's Blade, and it's just a nice touch during the reread.
It is. Dorian then gives Kale his birthday present, and it's a fancy royal horse. Quote, Kale was backing away, hands raised. This is a gift for a prince, not... Dorian clicked his tongue. Nonsense. I'll be offended if you don't accept. I can't. Kale views himself as not royalty once again. So before when he was watching Dorian dance with the women, he was like, oh, thank God I'm not royalty. And right now he's kind of panicking, being like, wait, no, I'm not royalty. You cannot give this to me. And he doesn't value himself the way that he values a king or a prince, which again, if royalty, the king, the prince represent his loyalty, and he can't view himself in that same level, then he doesn't view himself worth being loyal to. Whoa, did I just crack something? All right, not my back, but hear me out. Let's go on this brain journey with me. If Dorian and King, they are royalty. If Kale is super loyal to royal, he is honorable, he is he is committed to the monarch, I'll just say because it rhymes, so I'm just gonna say the monarch. If that is who he is so committed to, and he cannot view himself as being worthy of the same things as those of the monarch, does that mean he can't view himself as being worthy of loyalty that he shows to the monarch?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's subservient.
Yeah.
And, people in that kind of position don't expect to be treated nicely, to be given things. So it makes sense. So at this point, Dorian's like, hey, so what are you doing for your birthday? And Selena makes it very clear she's called dibs on Kale for his birthday, which pisses Dorian off. Quote, Dorian's eyes flashed. Well, I hope you have fun, he interrupted. Kale quickly looked back at the horse as Selena and Dorian faced each other. Whatever familiar expressions he'd once worn were now gone. And part of her, the part that had spent so many nights looking forward to seeing that handsome face, truly mourned it. Looking at him became difficult. It's amazing how much tension there is, and therefore how much tension will be gone when Kale is no longer an option for Selena. It's one of our listeners wrote, like, I honestly don't know why Dorian and Kale weren't OTP, because they're just so into each other.
It's true. It's true. You know what they say? Bros before hoes.
Yeah.
Chicks before dicks.
Yeah.
Besties before breasties. So.
I'm sorry, I choose breasts.
Whoa. Didn't have to lay it out there.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I wanted to see your face.
All right. It's only because I don't have a dick to enjoy right now. Okay. The chapter ends with Selena going down to the tombs despite Nehemia telling her not to. And she feels guilty about this. She's going to feel guilty in this chapter and the next chapter. Quote, because she was a miserable person, she wouldn't even trust the advice of a friend, but she wanted to go back to the tomb alone. Maybe Nehemia was wrong about the amulet being irrelevant. She feels so guilty about not listening to Nehemia's advice and going back to the tomb. And yet Nehemia's never been honest or trusted her. And I just hate how guilty she feels, especially because Nehemia's lying to her so much.
Yeah, and she's going to keep feeling guilty. And it's like reading it in hindsight, once you know everything, is like
cringe.
Sickening.
Yeah.
And SJM did it for a reason, right?
Chapter 20 starts, and Selena goes to the tomb, and she tries to see if her necklace opens the thingy so that she could see the thingy. It's tomb lore, you know? And it doesn't work. And so Selena thinks, quote, fine. Nehemia was right that the amulet was a dead end, and she was a wretched, horrible friend for being so distrustful and impatient. I hate the blind trust that she has, that she feels guilty about trying it. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone being like, hey, this isn't going to work. Be like, cool, I need to just test it out. Anyway, we do that all the time of like, hey, this isn't going to happen. Be like, cool, I believe you, but
I still need to try.
I just need to try, you know?
Yeah.
And like, that should be your first sign that Nehemia is being shady as fuck, and also you shouldn't feel guilty about it. Like,
nope.
If it was like, hey, Jack, if you try to put this bracelet to turn on your car, it's not going to work. And then I did it behind your back, I wouldn't feel guilty about it. Like, you know, again, rule number 1, you shouldn't, if your friend's making you swear not to do something, maybe we should question that a little bit more.
Yep.
Especially when Nehemia is aggressively not telling Selena shit. And Selena knows that, Selena knows that Nehemia isn't telling her things. So that's the other hard part. Selena's like, she's being, I can tell there's some secrets going on, but I'm going to trust her. It's not the one to trust. Now, at this point, Selena's having a dream, and it's all the hints about her family, has the night her family died. But mostly the hints are in metaphor. Quote, before her stretched a chasm so long it disappeared into the starlit horizon. Across the ravine was a lush, dark wood, rustling with life. So the wood is her family, and it's rustling with life, right? It's like moving. It's almost calling to her. You could say that the wood is the forest of Terracin. It's calling to her. Basically, she is on this side, home, Terracin, everything on the other side. What else is on the other side? Quote, the white stag watching her with ancient eyes. His massive antlers glowed in the moonlight, wreathing him in an ivory glow, just as she remembered. Moonlight is truth. we have a lot of things going on. I know she's mentioned before that the white stag is something that she saw on her way to when she was arrested, but stag is Terrason, so let's just continue with that. But because Selena is currently too scared to do anything with her future, her dream ends like this, quote, "So Selena did not cross, and the stag turned away, his steps near silent as he disappeared between the tangled trees of the ageless wood." It's almost like that blind faith trust moment. Like, it's like, hey, I need you to cross this ravine and not doubt me and just come here, but she's too afraid. And it sucks, but your girl's traumatized.
Yeah, I mean, what we learn later is basically the stag represents King Brennan, which is basically like a godlike figure to Selena and the people of Terrason. So when, quote, the stag had come closer, his head now angled as if inviting her to join him, it is so very clearly a call to action.
Mm-hmm.
She's been getting hit over the head with these calls to action. And so for her to say no to this godlike figure that she basically worships, she's like, nope, I'm not going to make that leap of faith. I think I was actually more shocked that she was like, nope, not going to do it, instead of like being ready to, because we've seen her start to think about Terrason, home. Maybe there can be good in this world. Maybe there is a force that would be willing to stand up against the king. So I think I was a little bit disappointed when I read this, because I felt like there should have been more hesitance, yes, but like maybe she was about to make the leap, or maybe right before she wakes up.
That's fair, because it's been leading her up, guiding her into getting ready to like make that leap there.
Yeah.
I think because we didn't read the quote, but in this moment, there's also, she looks down and there's like ice cold water river, and it's what happened to her, right? The night that her parents died, she was caught in that river. So I think there's also a lot of layers of her own. I mean, at least it makes sense a little bit why she'd step back a little bit, because you're entering old wounds here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's trauma.
Yeah.
Which, yes, makes sense.
But I agree. There should have been that moment of temptation to cross. So now it's the next day, and we're in Kale's point of view, and he was like, she is late to training. I am going to go yell at her and maybe chuck her out. And he's suspicious right off, and he sees Nehemia waiting in her room. I just want to say, why are we not more suspicious? Okay, you gave a good answer.
I'm sorry.
No, but why is she there? She could have left still. You know what? Okay, I was like, why is Nehemia there? Was she there for the tomb? Amy said
they agreed to have word mark lessons together every morning. Now, did she take advantage of the fact that Selena's not there? Probably yes.
Yeah. Because why would anyone just be like, I'm going to chill here and just sit in the room? And also, how does she know about the anniversary of her parents' death unless she knows exactly who she is?
Exactly. So we now move into chapter 21, and even Kale is thrown off by the fact that Nehemia knows the anniversary of Selena's parents' death. And as readers, we should be too. Nehemia does admit to never having been told about Selena's parents and the day that they died. Mm-hmm. So our spidey senses should be tingling. Kale thinks, quote, what sort of secrets was she protecting for her friend? And what sort of secrets did Nehemia herself keep that had caused the king to have her watched? Now, I don't think it's wrong of Kale to suspect Nehemia right now. Again, this is among her mistakes that she is throwing out there because of her desperation.
Mm-hmm.
It reveals a lot for her to be like, oh yeah, Selena didn't tell me, but I know it's the day of her parents' death.
Yeah.
You shouldn't know that. But I do think that's intentional on SJM's part. I think that she's working hard to get our attention here so that it's not surprising when these secrets about Nehemia come out.
Because Nehemia is the queen of just knowing everything and not saying shit, but gives oddly specific clues, she tells Kale this, quote, if I were to guess, I'd say she didn't want to spend one moment of daylight in this city, especially in this castle. because she knows who Selena is. It just cracks me up. It's like, Nehemia, the deliverer of one-liners, is all
Mm-hmm.
she is. We are now with Selena, and she's just, rode away. She's with Fleetfoot, and she's thinking about how it's been a year since she essentially tried to die by assisted suicide, essentially, like death by guards.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's different because this year she doesn't feel that same feeling. And she thinks back to the day of Endovier, quote, "Blood soaked her clothes and her bare arms, and Selena wiped it from her face." What we know is that this is the anniversary of her parents' death, which means the year before, when she, quote unquote, lost it, it was the anniversary of her parents' death. So it's very much her trying to save people and kill those that have hurt others. She can't save her parents. She can't kill the people who killed her parents, but she can start a lot of shit here and now. And also it's very symbolic, right? The way that she was covered with blood, the same way that she was covered with blood the night her parents died.
Mm-hmm.
Selena said it before in book 1 that she didn't have a plan on surviving that day, and she reminds us of that. Quote, "This was not a fight for escape. I really want to emphasize that she was ready to die that day, the day of her parents' anniversary of their death. That is how much she loves Kale and how much her life has changed, where she was ready
Mm-hmm.
to go, not be a part of this world anymore, and then now it's completely different."
That's a great point. I also want to call out a line at this point when Selena is thinking about the fact that she was going to die, or she expected herself to die, that I loved just because of the writing. Sorry, this is actually Selena talking about a woman who's been beaten
Mhm.
by the overseers. Quote, "She would die by tomorrow if her wounds were not treated. Even if they were, she'd probably die from infection." And Dovier amused itself like that. I just thought that was a really, really amazing way to personify this prison, which is a place.
Mhm.
It doesn't have human qualities, but the fact that it is able to amuse itself makes it malevolent
Yeah,
for malevolence sake, and it just makes it bigger than it probably, it makes it larger than life.
yeah,
And I just think it's a chef's kiss line.
absolutely.
Now, Selena decided it was her time to shine when, quote, "the last hour of full daylight, when the warm sun lulled many to sleep, was when the sentries went lax on watch before the evening inspection." Now, this is strategic, but she is also an assassin and she's comfortable in the dark. And choosing daylight in the afternoon is counter to Selena's instinct and her training. I think, going back to Jack's point, it reminds us of Selena's intention to die, to be seen, to create a spectacle and send a message. But I think it also conveys to us her strength. Like, she was able to kill 23 people without the cover of darkness and get within an inch of the wall of Endovier, which no one had ever done before.
Yeah.
So she's badass.
Yep. So at this point, she's reflected on, what happened the year before. She goes back to the castle. She goes back to her room, and she's emotionally drained. And Kale is there for her. He's trying to be there for her. And he knows that someone should at least be there for her. Quote, "Nehemia probably should have been here, another child of a conquered kingdom. But he didn't want Nehemia to be the one she turned to. And despite his loyalty to the king, he couldn't turn away from her. Not today." Kale understands the line in the sand that is Selena and her complicated relationship with the king, and where Kale stands on that line. It it's a complicated.
So I want to read this next quote about Kale because Kale is a fucking horny boy. Quote, "He shoved that feeling down, even as the silken texture of her hair against his fingers made him want to bury his face in it, and the smell of her, laced with mist and night, had him grazing his nose against her skin. There were other kinds of comfort that he could give her than mere words, and if she needed that kind of distraction, He shoved down that thought too, swallowing it until he nearly choked on it. So what we're saying is if Selena had asked Cale for sex, Cale would have done it. But he's noble. He suspects she's a virgin. He's not going to offer. And, of course, there's that invisible line he's created for himself. I forgot how horny he is. He is so fucking horny for her. It's almost like he gains honor by depriving himself.
He's like honor edging himself.
Yes, absolutely.
I will say, as someone with a dead daddy, 23 years? Wow, it's been a long time. I've had several boyfriends, guys, situationships and stuff over the years. It is amazing how almost all of them felt like they could heal me with their dick on anniversary days. Where it was like, hey, I'm really sad. I just would like to, everyone knows anniversary of my dad's time. It's always like, hey, go grab a cake, go do something. It is something every year, every person knows. And I've had, again, relationships, guys, situationships. And it's always like, and they'll be there for me, but then they want to be there for me. There's something about a dead parent that makes men horny. They're like, hey, I've been be your father figure, put your tiny hand in mine. I will be your preacher, teacher, till the end of time. That is men. That's men right there. In this very romantic moment, though, Selena tells him this, quote, I can't tell if I should be ashamed of wanting to hold you on this day or grateful that despite what happened before now, it somehow brought me to you. Let's reflect on that sentiment, knowing what we know. Like, she has gone through so much shit to come here. And I get that. Like, I hate that feeling, and I know that feeling because it's like, I personally like who I am. I like I like everything about me, but like, I like everything that I like my personality. I like where I've come. I also know I wouldn't be this person if I haven't lost the ridiculous amount of family members I have lost to come to be this place. So if that's like a feeling I don't like, I can only imagine what Selena is struggling with when you put that towards times 100.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a great point because, and I can understand why she would feel conflicted. So, in reaction to what Selena has just said, Cale, quote, was so startled by the words that he let go and stepped back. He had his obstacles to overcome, but so did she. Perhaps more obstacles than he'd even realized. So, this is a moment of clarity for Cale. He senses that maybe Selena has emotional baggage that makes her not ready, that makes her not available. He hasn't dealt with his. She hasn't dealt with hers. Like, everybody has emotional baggage here. And I'm not saying you have to get rid of emotional baggage to be in a relationship. But what I am saying is that just like Selena forgets how noble Cale is, Cale forgets how much Selena still needs to grow and overcome internally.
Yep.
Ultimately, they're just so horny for each other, they forget each other's true selves.
Yeah.
And it's going to bite them in the ass.
That's why they should have acted on their horniness much earlier than this.
Yeah. It's short-lived.
I just want to know what happened in that broom closet. Like, I know what happens in the broom closet, but I want to know.
I'm sure someone's written a fan fiction.
I want to know. Did you ever see that TikTok I posted of last week's clip? I'm gonna play it for you now. You don't need to see anything. You just need to hear it. I'll play it for the audience.
What does he shift into? Does he shift into an animal?
I can't remember. Yeah, you know what though? I want that sex scene. I want that sex scene.
No, I don't.
Bad.
I do not.
Detail it for me, SJM. Make me go on Pornhub and see how it works in real life.
He would see it. He would service her. That's all. That's all it would be. which is acceptable. However,
my Google searches are about to be so weird tonight. I want that sex scene bad. That's how I feel about this. Now, let's get into some breadcrumbs and broomsticks, but first the breadcrumbs.
Starting with breadcrumbs in chapter 17, when Selena is waltzing by herself, quote, Selena waltzed with herself. It's redundant.
Did you write this or did I?
I did.
Haha.
She even held the edge of her dark cloak in one hand as if it were the skirts of a ball gown. How does she know how to waltz? Even if you assume it was part of her assassin training, we're seeing her act as if she were noble.
Mm-hmm. In chapter 18, thinking about a world with a kingdom like Terrasen that would fight the king of Aderlin, quote, and in that world, Selena swallowed hard, she and Kale would never be a normal boy and girl, because Selena is a princess, also foreshadowing their end.
Still in chapter 18, Dorian is outside Selena's room when she comes back from Kale's. Quote, I was looking for Nehemia, but her servants said she was out. I thought they meant here. Then I thought you two might be out for a stroll.
Mm-hmm.
Nehemia's out with rebels.
Mm-hmm. Still in chapter 18, when Selena looks at Dorian, she sees, quote, there was something in his eyes that reminded her of a world long since burned, a glimmer of color and power that still stalked the edges of her nightmares. More magic foreshadowing and the fact that Selena knows exactly what it is because of her past.
In chapter 19, when Dorian, Selena, and Kale leave the carnival, quote, hide from your fate all you like, Baba Yellowlegs said as they turned away. But it shall find you soon.
Beautiful delivery.
Thank you. But it shall soon find you. I said it incorrectly. They're ignoring the call to action, and Baba Yellowlegs' threat isn't empty.
No. Chapter 20, Dorian thinking about the special ring club, quote, impressed murmurs and a nod from his father to Roland made Dorian's jaw clench. 3 matching rings, 3 black rings to signify what? That they were bound in some way to each other? How had Roland gotten past his father and Parrington's defenses so quickly? We already talked about this, but I like my note. Use those brain cells. Just use the last 2 brain cells you have. Make that connection. It's evil magic shit.
Woo. And finally, in chapter 21, Kale notices that Selena's eyes are, quote, turquoise and gold, which is a little hint as to how he's able to find out who she truly is later in the book.
All right, let's pull up some broomsticks. We got a fair amount of responses. We got some DMs. If you'd like to cover the DMs.
Oh, sure. So the question we asked our listeners on Instagram today was, if Kale is honorable, defend why he still serves the king. Do you want to tell us some themes of what you're seeing, Jack?
No. I was waiting for you to. Okay, so someone says, he's not free-thinking enough yet. To him, honor is equivalent to following rules, which means following and serving his king. It's probably why he still has some guilt about leaving his home, becoming the head of his house, and taking over his dad's role in the future is also equivalent to following rules and roles. I think that both Dorian having magic and Selena are the 2 things that challenge this mindset, that following rules is equivalent to being good. I think they're the first people that highlight following is not always the same as doing the right thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that.
So Faith said something very similar in her DM. I can excuse almost all of Kale's behavior on the fact that he's human. He doesn't have amazing assassin abilities or magic. Kale is a human who took an oath. All he has is his word and a limited worldview perspective. That in and itself makes his deconstruction of his loyalty to the king all the more impressive.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
There's a couple people that have said propaganda. This person has it a little bit farther, says a little bit more on that. Propaganda. Kale has been fed a narrative about his world when it started to crumble. Very true. He adjusts and tries to adapt, but changing your whole world framework is hard. I think that's a good point. He is part of a conquering nation. The amount of propaganda that he was raised on, of saying this is the right thing, this is why your father's gone to war, and this is why like life's so good now because we conquered all these things.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard to let go of a belief system that you've been fed since birth.
Yep.
Lizane says, because he puts his definition of honor, which is devotion without question, above morals, it's easier to stay in something you know, even though it's toxic, than to break the pattern and do the right thing. He's basically gaslighting himself.
Yeah. Similar here. When you've been brainwashed, it takes a second to realize you're wrong. You're not going to snap out of it of 22 years of conditioning overnight. A lot of conditioning. I mean, am I starting to make religious parallels? Always. I'll always find religious parallels. I believe Kale sees himself as serving Dorian, not the king.
Smithers says he defends the institution of the monarchy rather than the specific existing king. I guess that's true. I mean, because again, he doesn't want to really examine the king because I don't think he will find anything pleasant. He's defending the patriarchy as we know it in Otterland.
Yeah.
And because that's Dorian's future.
Yep. Someone says frontal lobe is still cooking. He's been raised to trust. He's been groomed into this position since he was a child. I think that's a fair thing to talk about, though, is like he has been groomed for it, even though he left his father. Why would he have left his father if he didn't think that he would have a position, if he didn't think that he was safer or would have a better life here?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, the king has taken advantage of the conditioning that has been done to Kale. Kale has blind loyalty. Why else would he be captain of the guard at 22? Because he's easy to manipulate.
Yep. He has no evidence to believe the world is different from what he had been told after book 3. He doesn't even know that he's not in book 3 yet.
It's true.
Because he's a bitch boy.
Yeah. Someone says he stays blind on purpose and waits for Dorian's cue, afraid to want to change in a system that favors him.
I don't think he follows Dorian, at least not in this book. I don't see him following any of Dorian's cues because they don't talk enough for this one. And yeah, I think he's blind, but I don't think he's blind on Selena just yet.
He has no frontal lobe to think for himself. He's literally a baby. Kale serves the people of the country, not the king. His actions do not echo those of the king's. Because he is constantly trying to be a good man and make honorable decisions.
I love more frontal lobe talking. Before Selena, he had no one pushing back on his limited worldview. He needs to deconstruct a lot. That is fair.
Yep.
All right, that's all I'm going to read. Is there any?
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
I love our listeners, love their input on these. I love the questions that we're now asking them where it's like specific.
Yeah, well, and they're providing great answers.
Okay. Oh, you have a question for me.
So, Jack, we see Kale struggle with his honor and Selena struggle with her destiny. Can the two of them even have a successful relationship when they are driven and haunted by different things?
I think one of our listeners said it best, where destiny does not necessarily follow rules. Honor, and the way Kale views honor, is following rules. Honor does not mean following rules, but how Kale views it is having to follow rules. Like there's no, it's so much so that it's not like there's a rule specifically said here of do not sleep with the king's champion. Like that's not a rule. That's just kind of like an implied rule. I think that when Selena is going to start, like where it starts to get like really messed up for between the two of them, is when she's about to confess that she hasn't killed any of the men that the king has told her. And
Mhm.
that's going to be the thing that rocks him, right? Like that's the one
Right.
that's going to, out of all of the things that she's confessed up until this point, none of it will have been what as shocking to him as you didn't follow the rules, the command.
Right. You defied orders, even though I was judging you for following those orders.
Yeah, like there's a lot that goes into that moment. It says a lot about him.
Mhm.
And so long as, and Celaena's path, there's nothing about her path that follows rules, right? Like
Yeah.
her entire destiny, I believe she disobeys every single rule there may ever have been ruled for. And until Chaol can, I think Chaol does come to the conclusion that you cannot follow rules in order to be good or to do
Yeah.
the right thing. At that point, she's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
not just physically, but emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, they're both being challenged in a way that asks them to take the next step in their journey, and neither is quite willing to take that next step. And for them to now, I think that if they could have made the steps in tandem, right? Chaol to understand that being honorable does not always mean following rules.
Yeah.
For Celaena to accept maybe her destiny, maybe Chaol could have gone on the journey with her.
Yeah.
But because he doubles down and he realizes too late what she means to him, and because of his just rigidity in general, this is the breaking point for them.
I think his rigidity is what stops him from getting Celaena to forgive him, because it's not like what he did is unforgivable because of just how much was set up against him and how much she has also kept from him, right?
Right.
There was, I truly believe, a moment where he could have fought for her, and he gave her so much space because that is in many ways the honorable thing to do, right? Is like he's letting her work through it, but then he had to arrest her and keep her in the dungeon, and he felt really guilty, and he's trying to do the honorable thing when in that moment, if he had fought for her and if he had been willing to travel with her and he'd been willing to say, you're it, because at this point, Celaena has said, you are it. You are home. I have found my way to you. You are it. And Chaol doesn't know how to have someone be it without meaning he has to give up a lot of other things. Like right now, his honor and his loyalty is it. It's sad to see the beginning of their downfall before they even start.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time that I feel like we've seen the most setup for their downfall.
Yeah, I agree. It is very Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
A way where they don't both die at the end.
And they both move on with other people.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. Next week, we'll be exploring chapters 22 through 26 of Crown of Midnight.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would also love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. Bye.
Bye.